If I was the Browns, I would be finding someone to give him a massage. Lamar Jackson is the James Harden, I think, of the
Oh, come on.
NFL.
Why is James
Um,
Harden catching strays in an NFL
because
podcast? Nobody's going to say
yeah,
let Knicks cook. Nobody's going to say
yeah.
that. He's looked like the worst tackle to ever set foot on the field.
He's getting thrown out there probably to die, and that kind of sucks.
Get ready. Class is about to begin with clean white dudes coming at you with some heat. Welcome to School of Hot Takes.
Welcome back, everyone. We are the School of Hot Takes, and today we are going to go over our season predictions and touch base on the two earlier games from this week on Thursday and Friday. Well, let's get right into our season predictions here, starting off with the AFC. I have them listed out here by all of our
Shout out Mitch not going
overalls.
dark mode too.
Yeah.
Not go dark
Soft.
mode. I really wanted to make some wild and crazy predictions, but I kept it somewhat realistic. I think I also played a little bit safe on some of mine. Didn't do any like crazy Broncos making a third seed playoff run or anything along those lines. Brian, if you want to get started into yours real quick. Any
Yeah.
standouts?
Yeah, sure thing. So real quick, I think the only thing that I would change about my AFC predictions, I'd probably swap the Jags and the Titans. Real talk, when I was filling out the bracket, I sort of at one point saw that I made the Titans 0-7, and I was like, well, that probably won't happen. So I started feeding them a lot of wins that I think could have gone either way. And
Mhm.
sort of the opposite happened with the Jaguars, where I was like, I could see them winning or losing this game. And then I was like,
Right.
oh, they'll just put they lose it. And then at the end, it's like they're 3-14. That probably won't happen. But I could see a 3-14 Titans team, and I could see an 8-9 Jaguars team. I think that actually fits what I think will happen pretty perfectly. And right after I filled this bracket out, I saw that DeAndre Hopkins said he was going to try and play through an MCL tear or something this year. I just think that team has a really low floor and a very low ceiling. I don't think that team makes playoffs. I don't think that's even a hot take, really. I just think that team doesn't make playoffs. But I also don't think the Jags make the playoffs yet. I think the Colts and the Texans are just so far above those teams. I would take Anthony Richardson over Trevor Lawrence right now, and I think the Colts defense is probably the best in that division. So at least in terms of their D line.
I gotta ask here, what makes you have the Browns so high in the AFC North here?
Yeah, so popping over to the AFC North, I think the Browns last year were really good. They had a really good defense. Deshaun Watson obviously sucks, and we all hate him. He's a criminal, sex crim. But besides that, that defense is enough to carry a bad quarterback. We saw that last year. Joe Flacco wasn't good, and they made the playoffs with that defense. I think even more surprising, though, is that I have the Bengals and the Steelers missing the playoffs at 10-7. I think they're good teams. There's no way they have a losing record with, Joe Burrow and Mike Tomlin heading those two teams, but they missed playoffs by a long shot.
Interesting.
Yeah. Bouncing down, AFC East, I have Jets winning the division 12-5, Dolphins 11-6. And I have the Bills making the playoffs at 10-7. I think it's getting to the point where the Bills are becoming underrated again. Josh Allen is becoming underrated again. He is a top 3 quarterback, and he's not number 3. And that defense isn't as bad as it looks. I know they lost their safeties. They lost Matt Milano to a bicep injury, I believe, but they have a good defensive coordinator. They have a good offensive coordinator. Not much has actually changed for them. So I think they'll make the playoffs. And then I have the Patriots going 2-5. I think Jacoby Brissett will probably play about 4 to 6 games, and then they'll bring in Drake May. He'll show flashes, but ultimately they will finish as a bottom 4 team again this year. And then finally, Chiefs are inevitable. They looked inevitable against the Ravens. Me and Mitch will talk about that a little bit later. Yeah, 14-3. They'll end up being my 2 seed behind the 1 seed Texans. And then I have the rest of the division just kind of looking like shit, man. I'm going to be honest. The Chargers, I don't think they're as good as they're being projected to be. I think some people have them kind of where I have them at 7-10. I think Vegas has them at 7-10 too. But then I see a lot of people being like, oh, Hardball, Herbert, that team's going to be amazing. I don't see it. I think they missed playoffs by a pretty clear margin. And then the Raiders and the Broncos, I think those are just 2 of the absolute worst quarterbacks in the AFC. And I
Right.
think they'll prove that Gardner Minshew / Aiden O'Connell and then Bo Nix, those have to be the two worst quarterbacks in the AFC, in my opinion. And that's including Russell Wilson. So
Well, I will say Bo Nix did look pretty good in the preseason games.
look at his average yards per.
I know. I don't think he'll do as bad as 2-15 though, is what I'm saying. I
Here's the
think
thing: a quarterback like Bo Nix takes very little time to figure out. A
yeah.
quarterback like Bo Nix, 8 weeks in, they're going to be like, okay, he's throwing slants, he's throwing screens, he's throwing checkdowns.
Mhm.
That's a team, especially when you're playing a division where you have great coaches like Andy Reid, Harbaugh, and even I would say Antonio Pierce is a great defensive coach. Those coaches are going to figure out Bo Nix's thing in a couple of weeks,
Yeah.
and they're going to be able to shut him down. So I don't really see them being productive at all.
Hmm.
8 wins is a lot for Bo Nix there, bitch, I will say.
We'll see. I mean, some of these games though are so tough to predict. Like you could switch some of these games back and forth when they're two bad teams playing. Like you don't really know who's going to win. It was sort of like a 50-50 toss up on some of these.
Yeah.
The 8 and 9 projection for the Broncos could be worse. I don't think it'll be any better, honestly. I think 8 and 9 is their best they can get. But going more into mine, the AFC West here, I think the Chiefs are still going to have the number 1 seed. I don't think how you have the Texans first overall is going to be what happens. I think the Chiefs are still going to run away with the AFC here. And I think the Chargers are going to sneak in to that 7 seed. I could also see them missing out on and being like the 8th or 9th best team in the AFC. I think if they do get in, they'll be that 7 seed. So we'll see how that all plays out. In the AFC East, I think it's going to be somewhat of a competitive division. The Jets are going to be a good team, but still kind of iffy on them, how Aaron Rodgers is going to do. I need to see them play, obviously, but I think they'll have like a 500-ish season, maybe +1, +2, or -1, -2 on each end. And I think it's interesting that we both have the Bills at 10 and 7, but you have them making the playoffs and I don't. I think it's a pretty realistic record for them, honestly, 10 and 7. And when I was filling this out, I think I had their first 4 or 5 games with them losing and then them turning it around in the second half of the season. Because I was looking, their schedule at the front here is just heavy loaded. I mean, they play at the Dolphins and then they play home to the Jaguars, and then they're at the Ravens and at the Texans. Like it's a tough schedule for them to start. So I don't think they'll start 0-5 or whatever, but I can definitely see them like losing close games to all those teams. Like
Yeah, I had them winning. I think they went 1-3 in my predictions. They play the Cardinals, and we'll talk about the Cardinals here in a bit. The Cardinals are a sneaky team.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people are picking them. If you're a sports bettor, a lot of people are picking Cardinals as a pretty good upset here week 1 against the Bills.
Yeah.
Because the spread is so big in favor of the Bills, despite the fact that there's nothing to really justify that. The Cardinals got way better. The Bills got way worse.
Right.
I think that's realistic. I think Josh Allen alone buys you about 8 or 9 wins, just him being on the field.
Right.
So it's easy to think that they'll win 10 games.
Yeah. And like I said earlier, the Bills could be one of those teams that sneaks in and as like the 6 or 7 seed rather than the Chargers or something along those lines. I could see that happening. The AFC North for me, I might be a little bit too high on the Steelers, but I'm just going to take that as, my favorite team bias. I could see the Steelers missing the playoffs this year again and being, 9-10 seed, somewhere around there. AFC South, real quick. I think the Jaguars make a surprise division title winner over the Texans. I think the Texans are still going to have a great season, but I think there's going to be some close games that they have that they might just lose at the end or can't catch up in the fourth quarter or something along those lines where there's a couple of those close games. So that's pretty much mine. I think, like I said earlier, I don't think mine's too unreasonable, at least team record wise. I do have the Patriots going 0-17. I don't think they'll win a single game, but
I was going to say that was the only thing I wanted to push back on is what are the odds any team goes 0-17? Dylan, I don't know. What do you think?
slim,
Patriots
but-
0-17?
I originally, I also had them 0-17. I had to go back and give them at least a win because I kind of just think they're going to be really bad. But yeah, like you say, the odds of a team really truly going 0-17, it's pretty tough in today's NFL unless they're trying to tank, and they have no reason to tank to get a QB this year. So I guess they're going to try to win. It's just I don't know. I'm not sold on any part of the Patriots.
They don't have like
Brian's
any
probably
good
more right.
players.
2 to 5 wins, right? Like max 5 wins.
Yeah, I don't think, and I don't know if this will pop up later, but I don't think they'll have the number one overall pick in the draft. I don't think that
Okay.
they'll be the worst team in football. I think they'll probably be somewhere in that bottom 5 or 6 teams, but it's the Patriots. Gerard Mayo is a student of Bill Belichick. So that, again, if you're looking at players and coaches that buy you wins, Gerard Mayo's a guy who's going to buy you a few wins. But just looking at it, I don't really see them winning more than 4
Yeah,
games.
it's going to be tough for them. They don't have the weapons there. They drafted Drake May and decided to start Jacoby Brissett, which is concerning. Like
I think it's a great move on their part, though, realistically, because their line is dog shit, and I think they don't want what's going to happen to like what happened to Joe Burrow happen to them, because if you get a generational guy and then you just his ACL first year, like
Right.
that really sucks.
Their starting left tackle, Verarden Lowe, has never played an NFL snap in his career. He's been on the Vikings practice squad for 2 years, and apparently in like training camp and in preseason, he's looked like the worst tackle to ever set foot on the field. So, yeah, I think Jacoby Brissett is better to navigate that situation. But like,
Right.
I mean, damn, I could see this is a way too early prediction here, but if we're talking Patriots going bottom 5, I think they might draft that huge tackle out of LSU, that number
Maybe.
1 stud tackle.
Probably.
I
mean, just imagine being Jacoby Brissett though, because like Mayo came out, what was it, like 3 weeks ago, and said like Drake May is our best QB by far. And then last week he was like, actually, Jacoby Brissett, he can win games for us. So
Right.
I don't even understand what Mayo's even talking about, but basically, I think Brissett knows that he's getting thrown out there probably to die, and that kind of sucks. That's a really shitty spot to be in.
Any other interesting takes here? I see you have the Colts over the Texans still. What's going on there?
I'll start with the AFC West and just kind of roll. The AFC West, I'm not going to lie, I did this morning because I thought we were going week by week. And then when Mitch told me we need the full season, I just started going like clicking like crazy. I had to redo it with Mitch once because I had the Niners losing like most of their games for some reason. So I had to redo
You
that.
had them at like 8 and 9 originally.
Yeah. And I had the Steelers going like 15 and something. It was really crazy. So I had to redo it a little bit. I didn't realize that I have the Broncos just absurdly high. But I will say that besides the Chiefs, like Brian said, they're inevitable. They're going to be in the playoffs. Whether it's 1-2 seed, I don't know, but they will be there. I do think one of those two, either Broncos or Chargers, are going to sneak in. I have no faith in the Raiders. Gardner Minshew did great last year, but I think that was more so because of Shane Steichen, and I'm just not sold with the new coaching staff he's going to be a part of. So I'm out on the Raiders. But I do think Bo Nix is actually kind of good. I'm not going to lie to you. I know his yards per attempt, all that stuff is not good, but all Sean Payton ever says is that he needs a QB that is like he's always had, which is like that Drew Brees-esque, like to get rid of it fast, read the field. And that's what he's got in Bo Nix. The guy, he's not really flashy. He's not going to make a ton of plays, but he's going to put the ball where it needs to be. And he played the most games ever in college. So he's got the experience. I don't think it's like carting out some random rookie that's, maybe played 30, 40 games. He's played 65 games. He's got hella experience. I think he'll at least do pretty good. I don't know if 11 wins. That sounds pretty wild, actually, now that I'm looking at it. But I think there's a chance they can win 9-10 games. And then I do think the Chargers can sneak in.
Yeah, the Chargers, again, they could be all over the place. I have to say, I really do disagree with the Broncos making playoffs. I don't
That's
know.
my hottest take. That's my hottest take for sure.
I think they're
I'm
going
in
to
on it.
I don't like the Bo Nix Drew Brees comparisons because they are not the same person. And I think people are just like, oh, Sean Payton drafted a guy that is like Drew Brees. I don't think that that's true. I think it was very clear to me that the Broncos wanted J.J. McCarthy, and J.J. McCarthy was drafted right before Bo Nix. Like, literally, the Vikings traded up in front of the Broncos to get J.J. McCarthy in particular because they had the pick after the Broncos, and they knew he wasn't going to get past the Broncos. And so it seemed more like, even at the time, even during the draft, it seemed like the Broncos pushed the panic button and drafted the next best available quarterback, which was Bo Nix. And so I don't think that this is some grand master plan by Sean Payton. And if Bo Nix ends up being good, I think it's a lot of luck on their part because, again, he is not flashy, but also this Broncos team is not any of the Saints teams that we watched with Sean Payton. The defense is not as good. They got Patrick Surtain locked down, $96 million a year, or not a year, $96 million a year for a quarterback would be
for anyone would just be ridiculous. Quarterbacks will be there
but
next year.
$96 million over 4 years. He's a great player. He's probably the second best cornerback in the NFL right now, which is great. But the rest of that defense is pretty weak. I don't know if there's any edge rushers that you guys could even name on that team right now. The rest of the corners are really thin. And the Saints have always been defined by the fact that they have a great defense that can get the opposing offense off the field quick and then let Drew Brees cook. They don't have the defense to do that. Bo Nix is going to be in a lot more situations where he has to carry. And then again, you look at that team's offensive weapons where you have, what's his name? Mr.
Cortland
No.
Sutton. Cortland Sutton.
Cortland Sutton is goated, but I was thinking about their running back who shreds his
Javonte Williams.
Yeah, Javonte Williams. They have Javonte Williams. They have Cortland Sutton, who's nice. They cut Tim Patrick, who was their best receiver for the past couple of years. So it's just a really weird team, and I think there's nobody on that team that is like prime Michael Thomas level or prime Jared Cook level or prime Brandon Cooks level. I think it's going to be pretty tough for Bo Nix to replicate what we saw with Drew Brees.
Of course, I mean,
but you're putting them on the same page or the same level though as the Patriots. I just can't see that. Sean Payton is too good of a coach to win two games.
What did Sean Payton show you last year that made you think that he was too good of a coach?
I mean, he turned what we all think Russell Wilson into a decent. They were at least decent. What they win, like 7 or 9 games last year? That's not bad.
7 or 8 games, yeah. I mean, he at least had a better second season.
Do you think Bo Nix is going to be worse? I don't think he's going to be worse than what Russ is.
I think he'll be worse than Russell Wilson.
I don't know. That's my hot take. I'm right.
I don't know that I agree with you there, Brian. I think Bo Nix is still going to be where
I think he'll be
where I have him, at least like a 500 team quarterback.
Russ Cook. Nobody's going to say let Nix cook. Nobody's going to say that.
Let me see here. I'll just do AFC North quick because I don't really have much to say about that. I think Ravens will get in. I think the Ravens look pretty much like the same Ravens they've always looked like. Lamar's probably going to just be Lamar, but at the same time, I won't probably be here for the takes later when you guys talk about this, but I will say I think Lamar Jackson is the James Harden, I think, of the NFL. He's hella flashy. He's hella good. He just won't ever win the big games. I'm pretty sold on that. He's going to be very similar to James Harden. I'm just here. It just is what it is. I love him. Listen, I had him as the third best quarterback in the league, but I think he's just never going to win these big games. That just is what it is. So,
why is James Harden catching strays in an NFL?
Because it is. That's what James Harden is. He's generational talent, super flashy, never had the clutch. He'll never win a championship. That just is what it is. And that's likely what's going to happen with Lamar. He's flashy. He's once in a lifetime. He's generational, but he just doesn't win the big games. And that's Lamar. That's James Harden. That's what it is. And it's ironic that you love both of them because that makes sense even more. You're going to defend them till they die, even though they're both likely not going to win a championship. But they are super flashy. They're fun to watch. They're super fun to play on video games. But they don't win it. They're not going to win the big games. But I also thought I had the Bengals going into I think they're going to make it to the playoffs. I hope the Steelers win, honestly, 0 games so we can finally get a good draft pick. I'm tired of picking 20th every year. And then I'm kind of out on the Browns. I don't know what they're doing.
Yeah, they're
until Nick Chubb comes back, though. Once Nick Chubb's back, it's over. But until then it's bad. I don't know. Deshaun Watson, I think it should be studied because I don't think there's ever been a drop off quite like Deshaun Watson. He went from being a top 3 quarterback to being maybe not worth being on the field ever.
Right. Hey, you know why that is, right? You know why that is? He stopped getting massages. It was the massage that made him good, man.
Go get a massage from fucking a guy now. I don't know. Get a massage, dude, please. For the love of all that's good. If I was the Browns, I would be finding someone to give him a massage. I don't know who needs to do that, but the drop off is insane. And I'm going to go down here. Let's go. I don't know. We'll go AFC East here. The Patriots we already talked about. They suck. The Jets, who knows? I just don't think Aaron Rodgers being 40 years old, coming off a torn Achilles. he'll be better than Zach Wilson was, but I just think overall the team is worse. The only thing that was good about having Zach Wilson was he was mobile, and Aaron will not be as mobile. So I think some of the plays that he was able to make, that being Zach Wilson, was that he could kind of get out of the pocket. I just don't see Aaron doing that. So he's just going to throw a lot away. It's just going to be kind of boring. The Bills, I just don't know. I think if this was like week 5, I'd probably change this because the Bills will probably look pretty decent like they always are. I mean, if Josh Allen if it truly is a season like it was, 2 years ago, and they were just like, let Josh Allen cook, I'm here for that because that's fun to watch when it's just Josh Allen just running. He's throwing these freaking darts. That's fun to watch. So they'll probably win more than 9 games. And then the Dolphins, they're just going to do what the Dolphins do, get to the playoffs. Tua is going to choke because anytime the weather goes below like 50, he becomes the worst quarterback I've ever seen. He's I think he's 0 for 20 now in games where it's below freezing. Like, he's awful. He's terrible. He can't play in cold weather. Very unlikely they'll ever have a home ride all the way through the playoffs. So they'll make it to the first round and probably lose again because that's what they do. Then we'll go down here to AFC South. Let's go Colts all day. Give me the Colts. 13-4. I didn't realize I had them 13-4. Probably wouldn't do that. But I also don't think that the Texans are going to do what they did last year. 15-2 is fucking wild.
Yeah, that's a bit nuts.
I'm assuming you're saying because they're going to build on from last year, but I don't know.
My question is, how did the Texans get worse? Because you guys are projecting them. Both of you are saying
I don't think the Texans get worse. I think other teams have gotten slightly better. And I
don't even think that.
I think the Texans are going to lose some of those close games against some of these better teams.
I just think teams are going to figure out a little bit more because this always happens every year. There's like 2 to 3 teams that you think are going to be really bad and end up being good. Last year it was the Packers and Texans were the teams that everyone thought were going to be and then they made it to the playoffs. Mm-hmm. And then I think this year they're probably going to take a dip back. Probably both teams, it seems like, because teams are going to figure out how to stop that a little bit. CJ Stroud had a great year, but I don't think he's going to build on that more. One of them has to drop out. Like either the Packers or the Texans. One of them has to get worse.
Hey, spoiler alert! It's going to be the Packers because they just lost Jordan Love for a significant amount of time.
He'll be out maybe 4 weeks. Maybe 4 weeks. It won't even be that bad.
They didn't get worse. I think we're again entering territory of Stephon Diggs is becoming underrated. Like, he is not going to be the guy he was in Buffalo, but he is really good. And to add those 3, to have Tank Dell, Nico Collins, and Stephon Diggs, CJ Stroud is going to continue to be that guy. His safety net, Dalton Schultz, got re-signed, so he's going to continue to be there. And they added Joe Mixon and Cam Akers to kind of beef up that run game and make it a little bit more amazing. So that offense is going to take a step up, I think, from last year.
I don't think their offense was an issue, though. Their offense wasn't an issue last year. They did great.
Yeah. Derek Stingley is on that defense now. They added Danielle Hunter. So now they have Will Anderson and Danielle Hunter coming off the edge. That's an insane edge rush duo. I think that's incredibly underrated. I think, we haven't done a defense ranking episode or anything yet, but I think the Texans underrated have a top 10 defense this year. I think that's not going to be a problem. They have 2 amazing edge rushers. Derek Stingley looks like an amazing cornerback. He's everything that he is billed to be if he stays healthy. He is fast. He is on the ball. He can play good in zone. I think he is taking a step up this year. And then you look at the linebackers. The linebackers are probably their weakest area, but they still have Christian Harris, who took a big step last year. Like I said, I don't really see an area where they got worse. And so my idea in them being the 1 seed is that if they were already a playoff team and they got 1 step better and didn't get worse like a lot of the other playoff teams from last year, I think they're going to continue to be on the roll.
I agree with all your takes. I think they're going to be good. I don't see them winning 15 games. No way to go 15-2. I'm thinking 13 is their absolute ceiling. 13 wins. No, I don't see a world where they're going 15-2. Like, they looked good last year, and CJ Stroud is good, but I think
their schedule is harder this year as well, which is why I think they're going to lose some of those games to these better teams in the last couple minutes of the game.
Yeah, well, we'll see. We should move on to NFC.
Yeah, I think they're both going to be in the playoffs, though. So yeah,
fair.
we're all out on the Jags. The Jags. Well,
All
not
right,
me.
Dale, how about you jump right into the NFC here?
Oh,
I
let's
see
see.
some of your picks are very,
The
very
NFC
interesting.
the
Jesus
NFC
Christ, dude.
NFC, I went pretty hard on.
What
I
is
don't know. It's
cooking with
fun.
the Panthers, bro? What
Dude,
is
relax. I'll talk about it. Relax, okay? Okay, let's start out NFC West first. Yeah, I think it's going to be the best division by far over
In
here.
all
You
of
got
football, apparently. Jeez.
yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sold on it. I'm honest. I'm really high on the Seahawks getting kind of a new look. I think their defense is going to be kind of gross with McDonald now. It's going to be fun to watch. The Rams, if Matt Stafford stays healthy, I think they're going to be the best team in that division. But I also could see if he gets banged up by like week 2 or 3, they could completely fall off. So that one's a real hot take. We'll see what happens there. I just hate the 49ers. I probably should have them. Like we talked about earlier, I had them winning like 8 games when I first did this. So I changed it a little, but yeah, I think they're all going to be really good. And even the Cardinals, like I really wanted to put all of them just in the playoffs for no reason, just because the Cardinals, I really like Kyler Murray. I think they could do something this year. They're another team, like Brian said, I think they got better. I don't really think they got worse. I think they got better this offseason, so I'm hoping they can improve. I'll go over here to probably the hottest of my takes, the old NFC East, where I have the Commanders just going off this year. Yeah. So much how most people have Caleb Williams and they're jerking Caleb Williams off, which I do think he'll be good. I just don't think he'll be the best rookie QB. I'm here to say Jayden Daniels wins Rookie of the Year. You heard it here first. Over Caleb Williams. I think he has the better season. More so because when you look at rookies, they do much better when they have offensive minded, like either their coordinator or overall their head coach. Now, unfortunately, they have Dan Quinn, who's a defensive guy, but they have Cliff Kingsbury, Jayden Daniels does. He's really good when he's not the head coach. As soon as he becomes the head coach, he just blows dick. But if you give him a chance to actually just be the offensive coordinator, he's really, really good. He's shown that. He did really well with Kyler Murray for a while. He was the one that single-handedly wanted Jayden Daniels. Like they asked him, which QB do you want? He's the one that wanted Jayden Daniels. So I'm really excited to see what he can do with that. And then I just think their team's baller. I mean, you got Brian Thomas. You got them. Like he's going to be really good. I'm excited for him. The Giants, they're terrible.
They do not have Brian Thomas.
Oh,
Brian.
Wait.
Thomas. Yeah.
Didn't they draft the what receiver did they draft?
That the Jaguars drafted Brian Thomas.
Yeah.
The
Commanders
Commanders drafted Christian McCaffrey's brother,
Luke McCaffrey.
Luke McCaffrey.
Jesus, why was I thinking that? Why was I thinking? I was so
I don't know,
convinced.
man. Their current WR2 is Alameda Zacchaeus.
Really?
Yes, they traded Jahan Dotson.
I got to ride with it now anyway because it's in here. I'm still so good because first off, I mean they still got Terry McLaurin. Whatever, we'll ride with him. Eagles, I don't know. I watched their highlights last night. They look like they're going to be good with Saquon because he's going to probably have a bajillion touches. So be it. The Cowboys, Dak Prescott, he's going to have to play for a contract. He'll probably do okay. And then the Cowboys will be like, no, we're not giving you the contract. See you later. So we'll see. Very likely in real life, the Commanders and the Cowboys switch spots, very sadly, but that's more likely to happen. But still, I'm here to say that Jayden Daniels will get Rookie of the Year. So we'll go with that. I'm still all for it.
I don't know about that though.
I think if you swap the
take.
Commanders and Cowboys, I think you'd have a very accurate NFC East prediction.
Yes.
Yeah.
6-11 for the Cowboys, dude.
Is a little.
I'm just out on the Cowboys. I mean, even if they even if we switch it up, they're going to do the same thing they do every year. They're probably going to get into playoffs, win the first round, and then lose the second round like they always do, or lose the first round. Whatever order that comes, it just, I guess, depends on who they play. NFC, I don't know. We'll go north. Yeah, I'm just out on all those teams really at this point. Especially, I kind of got to cheat because I got to make this morning after I saw Jordan Love get hurt, which makes me very sad because he was my MVP pick this year, and the guy was the most up on, so that kind of sucks for me. Also in a fantasy league, just traded for him and traded Pat Mahomes away, so that's really sick. So shout out Jordan Love, hope you're okay. After seeing that, there's no way they can win with Malik Willis. There's just not a chance.
Yeah.
Caleb Williams, they're going to do good, but I also think with just the pressure that he's under this year, I just don't see a world where he's going to win more than, I don't know, 8, maybe 9 games. They're probably going to squeak out more than I have them. And then I really like Sam Darnold, but he's probably going to suck like Sam Darnold has continued to suck. And then we'll go over here. What's this? NFC.
South.
Jesus.
South, yeah.
Yeah, South. God, they suck. NFC South. If we got rid of 4 teams in the NFL, it could just be the NFC South, and no one would care. It would be fine. Derek Carr's atrocious. Get him out of there. Tampa Bay. Baker. I think Baker's going to do better than this. I didn't really think I put them at 4-13, but apparently I did. Hot take. Panthers are going to be good. You heard it here first. By that, I mean, okay, 8-9's not good, but for them, that would be like life-changing. What they win last year, 2 games, I think. So
Yeah.
Slight turnaround for their season.
Yeah.
and then Falcons, I'm just riding the Falcons hype train. They have so much talent. It's ridiculous that Arthur Smith, who's now thankfully a Steelers OC, that's really cool to see, going to turn, hopefully whoever there now is going to turn that talent into something worth it, because Kyle Pitts is looking like a bust. We got to see what's up with that guy. And then the rest of their team is obviously gross. And then once we get rid of Kirk Cousins, that team will be even better. So there you have it. Shout out Commanders. Let's go,
Hey,
Commanders.
Joe,
I'm all in.
if that Commanders take hits, you will look like a genius, I will say.
I really will. And once we have the Terrence on here, he's going to be so happy to see that I'm right with the
He
Commanders.
might love this episode.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've said it before. I think Jaden Daniels kind of reminds me a little bit of prime Jameis Winston. I think he'll have a 30 for 30 season. If not this year, then maybe next year. And also, like, dude, already in preseason, he's been taking shots that he doesn't have to take. I don't know if Jameis, or Jesus, now I'm going to say Jameis Winston. I don't know. I don't know if Jaden Daniels plays the full season. He's a skinnier version of Lamar. And he takes those big shots. I think we may see Marcus Mariota take the reins at some point this season. And if Marcus Mariota is your starting quarterback, it's not looking good. So I think the Commanders being decent is a good take. I'm okay with that. I think them winning the division is like, there's almost a 0% chance. I'm going to be honest. Like I said, I don't know if you apparently didn't know who their receivers are, but they have Terry.
I did not at all. I don't know why I thought Brian Thomas was on that team. That was completely my
Luke
bad.
McCaffrey and sorry, I am disrespecting Diami Brown, who is
Noah Brown. I just checked it. Yeah, Noah Brown's are WR3 right now. So just got
Diami. Not Noah Brown. Noah Brown? Did they sign Noah Brown?
Yeah, he's WR3. I just checked. Yeah, he's WR3 now.
Yeah,
Miami
so
got put the second string.
They have like a bunch of WR3s then, and then Terry McLaurin.
And Terry McLaurin, let him cook though. Dude, I just think Jane Daniels will be able to complete a couple more passes, which would, we'll see what happens. And I guess maybe they're really relying on their run game.
Yeah, if he can connect with Scary Terry there, I think it'll be a somewhat decent season for them, honestly. I mean, going into mine here, I have them listed at 8 and 9, so I don't think they'll have a bad season by any standards, but I don't think they're going to be some amazing superstar team.
Yeah, we'll see. Yeah, no worries.
Okay.
Dude, I can't fucking believe that. I don't know what I was doing with the Commanders. I have no idea. That is insane to me. What I don't know what I was even thinking. When I was clicking down through there, I was like, yeah, dude, Commanders, I'm all for them this year. And then when you said that and I looked at their depth chart, I was like, holy fuck, this is terrible.
Okay. Well, I mean, hey, that you've probably won the hottest take of the week award because
I know. I feel bad. We always roast Mitch for having wild ones, and Mitch is fine. And this time I have just a ridiculous take. Shout out though. Shout out the takes.
All right.
All right, I'll just jump right into the NFC East here.
No, I mean we just lost a cast member. He got hauled away in cuffs. Apparently he had a grow op in his house, and we just saw a cop kind of barge in and cuff him, and it's really traumatizing. But I think the only way that we can get through this is he would want us to continue
this
talking
episode.
about the NFC. Yeah,
Finish it in his honor, honestly.
Yeah.
So
I mean, he must have been smoking something having the Commanders go 14-3.
seriously, I don't know what was going through his head there.
Yeah. All right, Mitch.
But anyway, in the NFC East here, like I said a little earlier, I think the Commanders are going to have more of like a decent season rather than an amazing season at 14-3. And I don't think they're going to be as bad as you have them at 2-14, Brian. But I could see them going maybe anywhere between 5 and 8 wins in the season. I don't think they'll go over 500 or get more than 9 wins or anything along those lines. I don't think they'll be fighting for a playoff spot. I don't think anything like that. But I think the NFC East is kind of a two-horse race. Honestly, it's going to be between the Eagles and Cowboys fighting for that division title spot. I could see either one of them taking it, honestly. I might be a little bad on the Eagles. I think watching them last night, I'm a little bit more impressed with them than I have them here. I could see them winning more games and maybe getting to like the 5 seed potentially or something along those lines. But yeah, I think both of those teams will make the playoffs. I don't have any doubt that the Eagles and Cowboys will be in there. Just not high on the Commanders or Giants at this point.
Yeah, I
Moving
was gonna say I noticed we kind of have the same ranking for that division.
Mhm.
I think we both understand that the Eagles are going to kind of take a step back. They obviously won last night, which is great. That doesn't really change my prediction. I also for some reason didn't save, but I had them going 9-8 as well,
Mhm.
and I had them missing the playoffs as the 8 seed. So I think that is just a division that seems like it's a pretty easy division to predict.
Right.
The Cowboys haven't really improved, but they haven't really lost anything. I think the Eagles look like they're kind of a mess. Nick Sirianni is on the hot seat. And the Commanders have a rookie quarterback and one of the rawest rookie quarterbacks in the league, too. So, and obviously Daniel Jones is a bum. So,
Yeah, he's
what are you
hey,
gonna-
bad quarterback, no real weapons, no great defense. It's going to be a long season for the Giants, I think.
yeah.
So, but I'll jump into the NFC South here. I'm high on Baker Mayfield. I like him. I don't think he's, gonna have the best season ever or anything, but I could see him getting the 4 seed. I think like they did last year, winning the division. I still think the NFC South is relatively weak and the worst division in the NFL right now. You have to pick a winner from that division, right? And I think it's going to be the Buccaneers. I think the Saints and Falcons are slowly building up to be better teams. I think in the next few years, the NFC South is going to be a better division and not the worst in football. But I think as we sit right now, I think the Buccaneers are still the best team in the division. And I don't know if they'll go 10-7, obviously, but I still think they'll win the division and get that 4 seed. I don't see any other team in that division making the playoffs right now.
Yeah.
I could be wrong, obviously, but they'd
Yeah.
have to sneak in at like a 7 seed, I think. And I think there's just better teams that could get that 7
Yeah.
spot. Going into the North, I think the Lions are going to take it here. I could see the Packers maybe sneaking by and getting the division title, but I still think the Lions are gonna just edge it out over top of the Packers. I think they have a better overall team, and like we said earlier, Jordan Love is gonna be out for God knows how many weeks, so
Yeah.
that could hurt the Packers coming up. They might even fall in this ranking that I have them here.
Yeah.
And the Bears with Caleb Williams, I'm still hit or miss on him. I just need to see him play for a week or two, and we'll see from there. I could see them finishing around an 8-9 or 9-8 season, something like that. But I could also see Caleb Williams doing not
Yeah.
terrible, but like slightly worse, where they finish with like 5 wins or something like that. I
Yeah.
wouldn't put it out of the realm of impossibility or anything like that.
Yeah.
And then, like we touched on, the Vikings are just god awful. I don't think
Yeah.
they're gonna have a great season besides Justin Jefferson popping off. But
Yeah, I'm not even, and it sucks. Like the thing doing this ranking the way this was is the Vikings. I just don't favor them in very many games.
Right.
Obviously, I think they'll probably win more than 3. I think that's one of my worst predictions here for the NFC is having them 3-14. I think it'll probably be more like maybe 6-11 or something like that. Like
maybe.
they probably won't only win 3 games. That would have them at the 4th worst team in the NFL by my predictions. I don't think that'll happen either. I think their defense, they have Brian Flores. I think that defense is too good to go that bad. I don't think Sam Darnold is I think Sam Darnold is an upgrade from their quarterback situation last year. So
Interesting.
honestly, I don't know how likely 3-14 is, but yeah, I think that we'll finish close to the bottom of that division. Except for maybe the Packers, and
Yeah, I mean,
I'll
now
transition
saying it,
into
but-
I'll transition into my NFC North too, since we're talking about it. But I think now with the exclusion of Jordan Love and what I'm seeing as of like right before starting this recording, we're recording on Saturday morning. The news is that Jordan Love is like the best case scenario that this was like a, not a full tear or, ankle sprain or something. I think those are kind of out the window. I think they're doing an MRI. So the likelihood is that
Jeez.
Jordan Love is going to miss a large portion of the season, if not the whole thing. And that's, week one thing. So, and I think I was going to get into this a little bit with the game recap, so I won't go too much into it right now, but I think that kind of takes the Packers down to be one of the worst teams in the NFL this upcoming year, bottom 10 team easily. And so I would kind of readjust this. Maybe I would give the Seahawks a couple more wins. Maybe I would give the Vikings a win or two over the Packers this season and make them 5-12 or something like that. But yeah, man, I mean, they will not make the playoffs without Jordan Love. That's a guarantee. I promise that. They have the worst quarterback situation in the league right now. I think even maybe worse than Daniel Jones and the Giants. So
yeah, I think
to say
that's
that they
where
could be below them is
I think that's where our rankings may be a bit off compared to Dylan, since he had the fortunate opportunity to do this after the game last night. So,
yeah. And like I said, I even think 7 wins without Jordan Love is kind of optimistic.
mhm.
I don't know. I don't know if they have 7 wins on that team without a competent quarterback. But
Yeah, I guess we'll have to
yeah,
see. I
so
mean,
I think the other thing that I would change is I did have the Packers as beating the Lions as their only division loss.
mhm.
I think the Lions would beat them both times this year, and that would make the Lions my 1 seed as well. I think the
Yeah.
Lions take the 1 seed, they get the bye. I think they have the best overall rounded team
Yep.
in the NFC
Even
as a
even
whole.
more than the Niners, you think?
Yeah, I'm a little bit low on the Niners this year. I think Brock Purdy takes a step back, and we'll get into that. We'll get into that, obviously. But to finish off this the NFC North, sorry, Lions 1 seed. I would have then the Bears at 2 seed, making the playoffs probably by a clearer margin than they do here on this ranking. I think Caleb Williams is going to come out and immediately be really, really good. I've said that on this podcast before. I think he's already a top 12 quarterback, and so you pair top 12 quarterback with some elite weapons, a defense that was improving every week last week in the last 8 weeks of the season. I just think that team is bound for a wild card spot. Probably not winning the division unless something crazy happens to the Lions and they get some injuries.
Right.
But I think the Bears are a wild card lock at this point, especially with the
I think
Packers
the
going down.
Bears are just like a wild card team until we see how Caleb Williams plays. Like doing it so early right now, like
Yeah,
like I
I've
said,
seen it.
I could easily see the Bears getting like 5 or 6 wins, or I could see them getting like 9 or 10. Like
No.
if
Yeah,
depending
I
on
think
how
they're-
Caleb Williams plays.
I think you and Dylan both kind of have them at their floor, which is like a mediocre season. I don't think they will be having a mediocre season. I think that's their floor, though. I think absolutely if Caleb Williams struggles against, some good defenses. I know one of the losses I have them taking is to the Niners. I think the Niners are going to be able to pressure him.
Yeah.
I think I also had them taking a loss. I could be wrong in this. I had them taking at least 1 loss to the Lions. I think that's another team that could really pressure him. But Brian Flores could cook up some interesting blitzes and kind of get him off. I had them losing to the Dolphins too. So there's a lot of teams that I think the Bears are not better than, but in the NFC,
Right.
there's really only 2 teams that I would guarantee make the playoffs, and that's the Niners and the Lions.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
so when it's all up for grabs, I think the Bears are easily, one of the next 5 best teams.
Well, I mean, I had them on this 1 less win than you, and you had them in at 7, and on mine they're at the 8 spot. So I mean, I could see the Bears sneaking in somewhere as like the
Yeah.
6 or 7 seed as well. Like I don't think they'll have a bad season or anything.
Yeah,
I'm not completely sold on Caleb Williams yet, and like I've said, I just need to see him play some before I'm like really
Yeah.
gonna judge him. too
Well,
much.
yeah, I just think it's like you guys have, like Dylan obviously has the Commanders making the playoffs. You have the
Yeah,
Cardinals
but-
making the playoffs. I just think that the Bears are better than those 2 teams,
Hmm.
and I think they make the playoffs. But jumping up, to what I think is the best division in maybe this entire league is the NFC West, with the Niners winning that division. Again, I have them being the number 1 seed. I think that changes now with the Packers going down. I think they'll probably end up being the 2 or the 3 seed, but I do think that they sweep their division again this year.
Mhm.
At worst, go 5-1. Maybe they drop a
Right.
game to like the Seahawks or the Rams because they always have their number. But again, the Niners are pretty much the exact same team. They got Trent Williams back. They got Ayuk back. They
Right.
can re-sign those players. They're healthy. I think the only thing that keeps them from really being hitting their potential that they had last year and being a dominant force. As I do think Brock Purdy cannot possibly maintain what he did last year. And if you watched him in preseason, he looked really rough, man. He looked really rough. And that's not even I don't like Brock Purdy. I'm not a Brock Purdy fan. I don't think he brings anything to the game that's special. I think he's just really good at game managing, and yet he still looked really rough, man. Even for what he's supposed to do, which is just to be out there and to make the right read at the right time, he just wasn't really doing that. And so I wouldn't be totally shocked if they go maybe like 11-6. I wouldn't be shocked if they win the division, but they have like a bad season. And I think the Rams I probably have too high as well for that exact reason. I don't know. I think Matt Stafford is getting older. I think I'm not huge. Puka Nacua is battling an injury. So they might have another situation like last year where they have one WR and they're throwing to him 12 times a game and that's it.
And you have to wonder how much Cooper Kupp can take of that for a whole season.
Right, and he's injury prone too, and he's getting old. So there's a chance there are 3 stars right now. Sorry, 4 if you count Kyren Williams. There are 4 stars: Puka, Stafford, Kupp, and Kyren. All of those guys have been battling injuries their entire career. And you're going to throw all those guys out as they're all aging and say, okay, this is the best division in football probably, and we're going to hold up. I don't know. I have them making playoffs here, but I actually am doubting myself a little bit on that take. I wonder if the Seahawks or the Cardinals don't kind of overtake them.
Yeah, I think this is going to be like the last ride of the Rams here with Stafford. If he has like a bad season or whatever and they don't make the playoffs, he might even just retire or something. Hell, he might even retire even if they have a good season. I don't know that the Rams, with all the injury-prone players that they have and how good this division is in general, I just don't see them making a playoff run or anything along those lines. If they do make the playoffs, it's going to be as like the 7 seed, I think. And that would be best case scenario for them, I think. I think this division is just too tough for them right now. I'm probably a little too high on the Cardinals as well, but I think they're going to be a pretty decent team. I think they're going to sneak in as that 5 or 6 seed team and maybe upset someone depending on who they play. I mean, if they play the Buccaneers or something, they could easily win that game and go on to the next round as well. I think this division is tough in general, like just all the teams are good, but tough to predict that 2, 3, 4 spot. So
all right. Well, look, I'm going to hurry up through these last one. I'll go into the NFC East because I think that's a pretty quick one. We talked about it already. I think the Cowboys easily number 1 seed. Again, I don't know why it didn't save. I have the Eagles going 9-8. I think that they do get over 500, but I think they miss playoffs. Whether it be the Rams, the Bears, the Seahawks, even maybe the Saints or the Panthers. I think one of those teams could potentially overtake the Eagles. I think obviously last night they were carried by Saquon Barkley, 3-touchdown game. But I think that they finished 2 seed. I think the obvious clear 3 seed is the Commanders, somewhere between the Giants and the Eagles. I have them 2-14 here. I think more likely they probably go like 6-11. I think Jaden Daniels is a good prospect. I don't think that he's a great prospect. And I also think that there's a decent chance that he is just not good to start. And I think having his weapons makes it hard for him. I think he's going to be running a lot. And so then the question is also, will he be able to stay upright? The Commanders are really bad about drafting big guys. They always draft these really skinny, small, lightweight guys, and then they don't understand why they're bad. They keep making the same mistake over and over again. They made it last year with Emmanuel Forbes, drafting the skinniest, smallest cornerback to ever play in the sport, and then wondering why he's getting mossed by A.J. Brown every single time that they line up. And then finally, I've got the Giants down here. Before the Packers lost Jordan Love, I thought this was the worst quarterback in the league. I have them with the number 1 overall pick. I have them probably taking Quinn Ewers or Carson Beck with that number 1 overall pick. I think this is the last time we see Daniel Jones play football, live alone, play it for the Giants. They have Malik Neighbors. I'm high on Malik Neighbors. I think he's an elite separator. He's really good at route running. He's fast. He's quick. He's got good hands. He's kind of the all-around good receiver. And in that case, kind of gives me like Justin Jefferson vibes a little bit, where he's just really good at everything. But that's not enough. Rookie receivers don't have that big of an impact on a team that's as weak as them. Another team with no really good defenders. Their tackle situation, they've invested a lot in their offensive line, and yet their tackle situations may be the worst in the NFC. It's really bad, probably bottom 4 or 5. I know the Patriots definitely have a worse offensive line, I would say, but Giants are up there. So I just think they didn't do anything to really improve their chances of winning games this season. I think they're coming into the season, if I had to be honest, they're coming into it with the idea of we are tanking for a quarterback
Right.
and we are going to have the number 1 overall pick. And so it wouldn't surprise me if they again, not say 1-14. It should probably say 1-16 or 0-17.
Yeah.
But they are going to be the bottom of the NFC and probably the bottom of the league.
Yeah.
And then jumping finally over to the worst division in sports, probably. I do have the Falcons winning this division, but if you'll notice, I have the Falcons winning this division
With a
going
losing
8-9. Famously, the NFC South is the only division to ever have a division winner that has a losing record. They did this before with the 8-9, or was it 8-9 or 8-8 Panthers a couple years ago, led by Cam Newton. I think this similar thing happens here. Kirk Cousins, Michael Penix, I think that situation ends up being kind of dicey, but it's good enough to get them over the hump. Like Dylan said, they do have the weapons. I don't think their weapons are good enough to get them to 14-3, but I do think they have the best weapons in that division, and that gets them to the top. Their defense also massively improved. They added Michael Judon for no money. AJ Terrell is healthy again. They added Jesse Bates and Justin Simmons on the safety end. I think that'll be a defense that we look back at the end of the season and go, oh, yeah, that had a lot of talent. Why didn't we project them to be better?
Right.
Because right now the conversation's all about Kirk Cousins and Drake London and Kyle Pitts and Bijan Robinson, and it's not about, hey, they added 2 all-pro safeties. I think you guys are also underrating the Saints a little bit. You both have them with 3 wins. I think the Saints defense is too good for that. Derek Carr isn't very good, and they don't really have a true WR1. I think Olave is a little bit overrated at this point. Maybe underrated. I don't know. He's kind of both.
I think although their defense is good, their offense is not, so they're going to struggle to score, and that's why I think I have them so low.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about it with our running back episode where, Kamara is not the guy he was.
Right.
We talked about with our receiver episode where Olave has not really taken that WR1 step yet. So it's just kind of like, hey, then your third best weapon is Taysom Hill. Like,
seriously,
that's kind of rough, man. That is a really rough offense of situation to be in. I think their defense buys them about 5 or 6 games, though.
Yeah.
And then I have the Panthers down there at 6-10. As I was making this list, I kind of realized I think that Bryce Young is better than people are giving him credit for. I would take him over a lot of quarterbacks in this league. I would take him over current Bryce Young. I would take over Jaden Daniels. I would take over Daniel Jones. I would take over Jacoby Brissett. I would take over Gardner Minshew and Aiden O'Connell. I would take him over Bo Nix. And that's kind of where those wins start to add up, where you're like, okay, the coaching situation is better. The defense has gotten a little bit better. The offense has gotten a lot better. And then you have Bryce Young, decent quarterback.
Right.
I think he kind of comes up, and he's no longer bottom 3. And I think he kind of ends up falling in that range between like 20 and 28, kind of middle of the road quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
And again, if you don't see that and the Panthers go, 2 and whatever, then you'll see him replaced probably.
Yeah.
And Bryce Young will be a backup for his career.
Right.
And finally, I do have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers falling to last. I think this is a lot of just vibes based, but again, this is a defense where their cornerback room is terrible. They just traded their best corner to the Lions for like nothing. They have really good weapons, but Baker Mayfield famously cannot have 2 consecutive good seasons in a row, and he just came off a good season. So I think there's a decent chance that we see Baker at his worst, and Baker at his worst has a very low floor. And then you got old Mike Evans, who I still had as a top 10 receiver, an injury-prone Chris Godwin, Chris Otton. I talked about how much I hate Rashad White.
Mm-hmm.
There's just, even though their weapons are better than anybody on their defense and probably helped carry Baker last year, I still don't think that they're that good.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I have the NFC shaking out. All right, so that was the NFC for all of us. Like, comment, subscribe. Let us know down below who we had right, who we had wrong. Obviously, my takes are all going to be right when you come back at the end of the season. All of these are going to be right. I promise you that. Thanks for coming to class. See you next time.
See ya.